Let's also talk, before we go to our first guest, about Nigel Farage's and his bank account. His bank accounts at Coutts were closed down, mortgage, current account, savings account, everything. We were told because there were some concerns about him being a politically exposed person. No, it was because he didn't have enough money in his accounts. No, it turns out, actually, after a subject access request, this is an SAR request to the Information Commissioner by Nigel Farage, but it's a legal requirement for the bank to turn over documents about him. He has now discovered in a 40-page dossier delivered to him that his bank accounts were closed down because his views did not, quote, align with our values. That's what the bank had to say. Their reputational risk committee, they have one, said that the bank exited him after considering a dossier detailing his comments about Brexit. Apparently, he was in favour of leaving the EU. I know, it's a shock to everyone. His friendship with Donald Trump, his views on LGBT ideology, and even his friendship with Novak Djokovic as evidence that he was not as inclusive as the bank. Well, this is a little clip that Nigel Farage put out on his Twitter feed yesterday when he did get hold of this report, this dossier from the bank. Here is what Nigel Farage had to say.
So let's be clear. The decision to get rid of me wasn't financial. It was done because somehow I don't fit with their values. They were bailed out by us. They have a duty to run at a profit as a commercial business. But no, they are to be the moral guardians of all. And that's because the march through the public and private corporate sectors of left-wing institutions who want to change the way the world is, organisations like Stonewall, has led us exactly to where we are.
I mean, genuinely, I think genuinely really, really terrifying there. Do you not think, Russell Quirk, where we're in a sort of Chinese-style social credit system where if your views are not the correct views, even if, by the way, they are, some of those, the majority views of people in this country,
yes,
that you could have your bank account closed?
It is absolutely abhorrent and very, very sinister. And actually, when you read into this, the Telegraph obviously dive into this in some detail this morning, the fact that Nigel Farage was snooped upon, as he puts it, by almost a Stasi-like operation.
Well, like I was by the Cabinet Office during lockdown.
Many people were, of course, during COVID. Those who dared to say that maybe lockdowns aren't quite such a good idea. The fact that, they were interrogating his social media and so on, and they mention the word Brexit 86 times. They say he's not a politically exposed person, but then they say in the documentation that he is. That this is not only sinister, it's abjectly political. Private companies, particularly those that are 39% owned by the taxpayer, have no right mandating whether you can have a bank account or not.
Well, this is it. I mean, to me, if Coutts said, I'm sorry, we're not going to give you a bank account because you're gay or because you're black or because you're a woman, but everyone would be outraged. Oh, but his political views, that makes him unacceptable. But we've seen other people, Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor himself, former Culture Minister, Eddie Vasey, various other people who just simply said, I don't like you having a load of, trans pride ideology thrust at me when I'm going to my local bank to put some money in my savings account. They're having their accounts closed. The Treasury has said that they express serious concern, that's their words, at the idea that financial services would be denied to anyone exercising their right to lawful free speech. They didn't really express any concern when Justin Trudeau did that to the truckers over vaccine passports in Canada. But this is what's happening in this country. Action needs to be taken straight away. This is not about consequences to your expressing your views. This is about people being punished, taken out of normal daily society, unable to operate. You cannot live life in a modern society if you cannot operate a bank account. 10 other banks have chosen not to give him their accounts. This needs to be made, if it's not already illegal, and I don't see how it isn't. This needs to be told very, very clear. You do this, your bank, we will physically escort you to the border and you will be out of here.
Well, yeah, they should remove their banking licence. It's a human right. It might not be enshrined in law that it's a human right to have a bank account, like it should be to have a roof over your head or whatever. But absolutely, because they know, the banks know, and there are 10, of course, that have decided not to open a bank account for Nigel Farage. They know that it stops you operating as an individual and as a business.
You could be a convicted murderer and not lose your bank account. There are terrorists who have bank accounts, for goodness sake. How on earth is someone who was illegally, his views are all legally held, they're all perfectly legitimate views, some of them are the majority views in this country, a man who's been elected numerous times as an MEP in this country, the idea that someone should be able to close down their account because they just don't like what he has to say, I find absolutely extraordinary and deeply, deeply sinister. And I wonder how many of us will be next. Also, I'd love to know, since they are the royal bankers, Coutts, many members of the royal family bank, they're famously the Queen, I wonder, does Prince Andrew still have an account with you, Coutts, because you seem to not be bothered by someone who's big mates with someone who's convicted of child prostitution and has faced some accusations himself of a very seedy sort. Not bothers you, doesn't bother you at all, apparently.
But the whole thing that this somehow reflects on their brand is a complete misnomer.
Yeah.
He doesn't run around as brand ambassador for Coutts, Nigel Farage.
It absolutely reflects on their brand right now, I have to tell you. And also, if you are a Brexiteer, or you have any of the same views as Nigel Farage, or in fact, if you're just someone who actually understands the principles of freedom of speech, you should close your account there. You should tell them why.